External control of the mind is not something new. It's thousands of years old. It's recorded in caves. It's recorded the exact formula for trauma-based mind control in the Egyptian Book of the Dead. Adolf Hitler was particularly interested in mind control, and he assigned his right-hand man, Heinrich Himmler, to do some research, particularly on the families of Northern European, multi-generational, sexually abused, psychologically abused, physically abused children. Well, Adolf Hitler knew pardon me, that these people who are abused become very, very receptive to external control of their mind. They also develop some incredible abilities, like 44 times visual acuity. Now, I know that it doesn't take a rocket scientist, pardon the pun, to figure out how we could use somebody with 44 times the average person's visual acuity. It's called special forces. But I was put into that job after months and months and months of psychological examinations because they knew I could keep a secret. I was given a Defense Department clearance. I knew about the Heinrich Himmler studies for Adolf Hitler, and I knew that Adolf Hitler wanted to develop some very serious people to put in places to control various regions in what he called, and George Bush called, and Nero called, the New World Order. You see, Adolf Hitler was not the first, nor was George Bush, to fantasize about this hideous idea of totalitarian government enslaving an entire globe through mind manipulation. What Adolf Hitler began in his adamant research on, he had the largest number of human subjects from which to work and do his horror on. And it was even accepted by most of the people in his country that these prisoners of war were indeed to be subjected to anything that he chose that would better his country. Well, MKUltra took on the same scientist, because in 1947, when the National Security Act was formed, there was a project that was developed called Project Paperclip. There was a few airlines at that time that were cranked up. Capital International Airlines was one of those airlines. I was vice president of Capital Airlines for a period of time. Capital International Airlines. This is very similar to the hat that they wore. This information that Adolf Hitler was developing, we developed through Project Paperclip. Project Paperclip was the importation of Nazi and fascist scientists into this country after World War II that saturated our universities, saturated our Fortune 500 corporations, saturated NASA. It built NASA. And it has infiltrated every aspect of society with its filth. Filth in child pornography, filth in blood rituals and hideous religious beliefs that involve human sacrifice, anything to traumatize the mind. Some of these, I'm approached by a number of avid researchers that say, well, this is Satan behind it. Well, I want to tell you, these are people behind it, because I worked for the airline that brought these folks in. I had no idea what I was involved in, but I was recruited by Capital International Airways for the purposes that I could keep my mouth shut, and I worked on a need-to-know basis. Most operatives do not know who they're working for. There are over 86,000 of them in this country. Now you divide that by 50 and see what you come up with. This place is crawling with Big Brother. The KGB never had that many functioning operatives in high levels as we do in this country. Mind control whether it be trauma-based mind control to develop a totally robotic human being, is one type. Fortunately, it requires a great deal of horrible trauma that somebody's got to put on to these people. And it requires something more than just pushing a button on a console. There is equipment available now that we cannot protect ourselves from. General Russell Bowen, who was one of the originators, and he's set up Operation Watchtower, the CIA's drug op. By the way, how many of you believe that the Central Intelligence Agency is the world's largest drug dealer? Can I see? Okay. So that makes our country the largest drug dealer on the face of the earth. And I resent this. In 1977, the 95th U.S. Congress had met because this is good news, because I wouldn't have 1 ounce of credibility up here as far as MKUltra goes if this didn't come out, and I couldn't even tell you the code name. But in 1977, the 95th U.S. Congress met to address an issue that a Dr. Ewen Cameron, the founder of the American Psychiatric Association, the APA, the lobby group in Washington that controls what doctors do for our heads when we run into trouble. The type of mind control, again, that Adolf Hitler thought that he could use on certain individuals, putting them in positions of extraordinary power and having invisible strings, the master puppeteer, to their minds and what they said. I don't know if we have politicians like that now or not, because it seems like you don't have to put them under mind control. They'll do anything that corrupt members of Congress persuade them to do. MKUltra was designed and had many, many sub-projects for developing the perfect soldier, the perfect espionage agent, things that I was told that would cover an area of our national security that no soldier and no diplomat could possibly cover. No one told me that we were using them as drug mules and prostitutes. No one told me that we were using them for breeders so that children could be provided sheiks, world leaders. No one told me that we were using them for money laundering operations. And the information contained on this video that's being produced right now will reach the eyes of those that can hear and see truth, so that they will get out and begin to wonder why Sirhan had the same psychiatrist, Jolyon West, Lee Harvey Oswald, Timothy McVeigh,